The Galactic Empire, a force that spanned across millions of worlds, had never encountered resistance like what they would find on Earth. With fleets of advanced warships, an AI-controlled military, and a culture steeped in conquest, they had effortlessly swept through countless civilizations. Their belief in the inevitability of their success was unshakable. After all, every species they had encountered either bent the knee or was eradicated. When the Empire's sensors first detected Earth, they saw a planet that was nothing more than a curiosity. An underdeveloped species with no significant military presence or advanced technology. Earth's people, despite their occasional forays into space, were far from a match for the Empire. The Empire assumed that any communication from Earth would be a simple negotiation for assimilation or immediate capitulation. No one had the foresight to consider that humanity, a species that had spent millennia on their own planet, could possess the ingenuity and resolve to challenge an intergalactic empire. To the Empire, Earth was merely the next target in an endless expansion. They dispatched a delegation with an ultimatum: submit or be destroyed. The terms were simple. Humanity would surrender all sovereignty and become part of the Empire. If Earth resisted, the Empire would show no mercy, using their advanced technology to wipe out any semblance of resistance. The Empire's commanders believed that Earth's technological inferiority and lack of a cohesive military would make the decision easy for the humans. They were wrong. The message was received, and humanity, although divided on how to respond, faced the impossible choice of submission or annihilation. At first, many leaders on Earth considered accepting the Empire's offer. There were fears that resisting would result in the destruction of everything. Some governments saw this as an opportunity to secure protection and resources, while others advocated for submission, believing they could still maintain their way of life under the Empire's rule. However, in the midst of uncertainty, there was a group of defiant individuals who refused to accept subjugation. They saw the Empire's demands not as an opportunity, but as a grave injustice. Humanity's strength had always been its will to fight, even when the odds were impossible. This spirit, one that had shaped Earth's history, would now rise against an enemy unlike any other. The smaller factions who rejected the Empire's ultimatum began to find one another. They began to share knowledge, pooling resources, and preparing for a conflict they knew could lead to their extinction. It wasn't just governments or military leaders who stepped up to the challenge. It was ordinary civilians, hackers, engineers, and scientists who would prove to be the heart of Earth's resistance. They understood that survival meant more than simply surrendering to the Empire's demands. The decision to fight was made not just by a select few, but by humanity as a whole, driven by the collective will to preserve their home. They would not kneel to any power, no matter how vast or technologically advanced. The Empire's belief that humanity was weak would soon prove to be its greatest miscalculation. Earth's strength wasn't in its military might or technology. It was in its creativity, resourcefulness, and fierce independence. The day the Galactic Empire learned never to underestimate humans was about to begin, and it would start with their first miscalculation. The Empire's initial strikes were quick and brutal, designed to showcase their overwhelming power. Their fleets descended upon Earth, targeting major cities and military installations. With their advanced weaponry and AI-driven precision, they made short work of Earth's defenses. At first, the human response was fragmented, and it seemed as though resistance would be futile. Governments argued over how to handle the invasion, with some factions calling for immediate surrender, while others pushed for a more aggressive stance. But as the destruction mounted and the Empire's forces showed no mercy, something incredible began to happen. In the face of overwhelming odds, humanity's spirit rallied. People from all walks of life, civilians and soldiers alike, began organizing on their own. They did not have the same resources as the Empire, but they had something the invaders couldn't predict: a tenacity that came from centuries of survival against every obstacle Earth had thrown at them. Resistance groups began to form, and they didn't just wait for orders. They adapted quickly, creating makeshift weapons and improvised defenses. Ordinary citizens, many without any formal military training, took to the streets, fighting back with everything they had. One of the first real turning points came when a group of Earth's top hackers managed to infiltrate the Empire's communications network. It wasn't a direct attack, but rather a subtle disruption. Small glitches in the Empire's systems that went unnoticed at first. These weren't technical failures. They were human innovations that exploited the Empire's overconfidence. With their networks slowly starting to fragment, the Empire's artificial intelligence struggled to maintain the same level of control over their forces. Meanwhile, on the ground, human forces began to adapt their tactics. The Empire relied heavily on automated drones and AI-driven units, and while this allowed for greater efficiency, it also made their military predictable. The human resistance, using guerrilla warfare techniques, exploited the rigidity of the Empire's technology. They set traps, staged ambushes, and used the Empire's own infrastructure against them. The more the Empire relied on its technology, the more vulnerable it became to human ingenuity. As the Empire's military machine began to falter, the Resistance's confidence grew. With each successful sabotage operation, more and more people joined the fight. The humans weren't just reacting to the Empire's actions, they were becoming proactive. They understood the weaknesses in the Empire's strategy better than the Empire itself did. The fight was no longer just about surviving the Empire's attacks. It was about turning the tables and striking at the heart of their advanced systems. What the Empire didn't anticipate was how quickly humans could learn and adapt. The initial chaos of the invasion began to settle into a series of calculated strikes against the Empire's key resources. The humans were relentless, finding new ways to disrupt the Empire's command structures and supply lines. The invaders, once so sure of their victory, began to realize they were facing a species that refused to give in, no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. The more the Empire's technological superiority was challenged, the more their confidence eroded. What they had assumed would be a quick and easy conquest had now turned into a protracted struggle. And with each passing day, humanity's resilience was becoming harder for the Empire to ignore. What started as small, isolated skirmishes had now grown into a full-scale resistance that was shaking the very foundation of the Empire's belief in its own invincibility. The tide was beginning to turn, and the Empire was finally starting to realize they were no longer the hunters, they were the prey. The turning point came when the human resistance unleashed a weapon that the Empire never saw coming. A virus designed to dismantle the very core of their technological infrastructure. Earth's finest engineers and hackers had been working in secret, crafting a tool capable of infiltrating and corrupting the Empire's heavily automated systems. The virus was sophisticated, blending seamlessly into the Empire's communications networks, and it carried a simple but devastating payload: disrupt the Empire's AI-driven military control. The plan was risky. No one knew for certain if the virus would even work, let alone how the Empire would react when it did. But there was no choice. The Empire's reliance on artificial intelligence to control their military assets had been their greatest strength, and it turned out, their greatest weakness. The virus, once deployed, spread like wildfire through the Empire's network. It struck with such precision that, within hours, entire fleets of warships were rendered useless, their commands and coordination completely paralyzed. The Empire, so dependent on their advanced technology, scrambled to regain control. But their AI systems, once impervious, had been sabotaged at the most fundamental level. Commanders, who had never needed to make decisions for themselves, found themselves powerless as their automated systems malfunctioned. Ships that had once been a symbol of the Empire's strength now drifted aimlessly, crippled by the virus. What was supposed to be a swift and decisive conquest had become a chaotic mess. In the face of this unexpected development, the Resistance's next move was even bolder. They capitalized on the confusion, launching targeted strikes at key Imperial installations. With the Empire's AI in disarray, their fleets couldn't communicate effectively, and their strategic command centers were compromised. The Empire, once so sure of their ability to crush humanity, found themselves defending their own borders from a species they had dismissed as unworthy of resistance. Humanity had not only survived but had now begun to dominate the battlefield. While the Empire's automated war machines fell apart, the human forces, who had been outclassed in every conventional sense, adapted and fought with unprecedented coordination. The very technology the Empire relied on had been turned against them. And as the chaos spread, it became clear to the Empire that they had underestimated humans in ways they could never have imagined. The Empire's panic was palpable. Leaders who had once boasted of their superiority were now forced to consider the possibility that their empire could fall at the hands of a primitive species. The virus, once thought of as a mere nuisance, had crippled their most powerful weapon: their AI infrastructure. Earth's resistance was no longer fighting a hopeless battle. They were dismantling the Empire's vast technological advantage, piece by piece. The unthinkable had happened. The mighty Empire, whose fleets had once seemed unstoppable, was now reeling from a human-led uprising that had used the very technology they had relied on to defeat them. But even in the face of this technological calamity, the Empire refused to admit defeat. They began to retaliate, but every effort was met with mounting resistance. The virus had not only caused chaos, but it had also sparked a sense of unity among Earth's people. The message was clear: humanity was not a species to be easily crushed. The Empire's advanced weapons systems were useless without the AI to coordinate them. And in the absence of that control, humanity's ingenuity and spirit had taken center stage. The Empire's leadership, now desperate, scrambled to find a solution, but their own hubris had left them too reliant on their technology. They had failed to see the one thing that had always been humanity's greatest asset: the ability to adapt, learn, and overcome. The virus had shifted the balance of power, and now, humanity was on the offensive. What had started as a fight for survival had become a battle for supremacy, and the Empire's greatest strength had become its fatal flaw. The humans had won the first round, and the Empire knew that the cost of their underestimation would be far greater than they had ever imagined. The Galactic Empire, once confident in their ability to crush humanity, found themselves in retreat. The virus had been just the beginning. As the Empire's AI systems collapsed, their fleets were rendered helpless, their strategic command centers disbanded. Humanity, once thought insignificant, had turned the tide of battle, exploiting the Empire's technological dependency and their underestimation of Earth's resolve. What followed was a relentless wave of human victories. Every day brought new victories, as the Resistance coordinated ever more complex operations, and the Empire's forces crumbled under the weight of their own failures. The Empire's leadership, scrambling to regain control, was left with few options. They attempted to launch counterattacks, but every effort was met with a well-prepared resistance that had learned from their mistakes and adapted to every new challenge the Empire threw their way. Humanity, for the first time in the conflict, was on the offensive. What had once been a desperate struggle for survival had now become an unstoppable momentum. The Galactic Empire, so proud of their technological advancements, were now on the back foot, facing the reality that their sophisticated weapons and fleets were no match for human ingenuity and spirit. In the wake of the Empire's retreat, humanity broadcasted a message to the galaxy: a declaration of independence, a refusal to ever bow to an empire that saw them as nothing more than an insignificant species. The message was simple: Earth would no longer be a subject, nor would any other species that dared to challenge their sovereignty. No longer would humanity be the target of invasion or subjugation. The galaxy now knew that Earth had found its place among the stars, not as a weak, defenseless planet, but as a force to be reckoned with. The ramifications of humanity's unexpected victory rippled throughout the galaxy. The Empire had long ruled through fear, subjugating species and suppressing rebellion with brutal force. But now, those who had lived under the Empire's rule began to take notice. Systems once kept in check by the might of the Empire started to question their loyalties. A new alliance of planets began to form, inspired by humanity's refusal to submit. For the first time, the Empire's dominance was being openly challenged, not just by force, but by the very ideals that had driven humanity's fight. The humans, who had been treated as insignificant and primitive, were now seen as the beacon of resistance. The Empire's retreat had ignited a fire of rebellion that could not be extinguished. Many of the species that had once been too fearful to resist the Empire began to rise, inspired by humanity's courage. The idea that a single, small planet had defeated the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known spread like wildfire. In the Empire's retreat, Earth had become a symbol of hope, proving that no matter the size or strength of an oppressor, resistance was always possible. As the final remnants of the Empire's forces limped away from Earth, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The once unstoppable power had been humbled, and humanity stood victorious. Earth had proven that no empire, no matter how technologically advanced, could ever fully control a species with the will to fight for its freedom. The war was not just a battle for Earth's survival, it had become a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would never be underestimated again. With the Empire's defeat came a new era for Earth. Humanity, having proven its strength and resilience, now looked to the stars not with fear, but with pride. They had fought and won, not through brute force alone, but through their ability to adapt, learn, and outthink their enemies. The galaxy had witnessed the power of human ingenuity, and it was a force no empire would dare to challenge again. The message from Earth was clear: humanity was not a species to be ignored. The Empire had learned its lesson, and it was a lesson that would echo across the galaxy for millennia to come.